It's time for the one and only, the premier, the only official podcast of Pro Rodeo. Your Chute Bosses are ready, so let's give it a go and talk some rodeo.
Welcome back into another episode of the Chute Bosses, the official podcast of Pro Rodeo. It's Tanner and Tracy. We're back here with you again as we always are, and we got a great show coming your way. A little bit of a different change-up, Tracy. We're going to sit down with Hall of Fame shortstop Ozzie Smith, and what a cool interview to have here on the Chute Bosses.
Yeah, I mean, he's arguably one of the top 5 shortstops ever in Major League Baseball. I mean, he's got some rodeo ties a little bit, but we had the opportunity to get a guest like that, couldn't pass on, and he offers some good insight on some of our rodeo competitors as well.
He does, and we'll get to that at the back end of the show, so make sure you stick with us. But as we always do, we're going to kick things off with our Pro Rodeo props. And Tracy, for this one, we're going to go for the Sowing Good Deeds finalists. I'm going to read these names off so we don't get them wrong. It's the Prescott, Arizona Frontier Days Committee, the San Bernardino, California County Sheriff's Rodeo, the Red Bluff, California Roundup Association, the Gunnison, Colorado Cattlemen's Day Rodeo, and the Home on the Range Champion Ride in Sentinel Butte, North Dakota. And Tracy, this is a great honor for these committees. You know, it's an award that honors committees that support their local, regional, and national charities, and we see that so much throughout rodeo, and it's really a cool thing.
Yeah, and they put in tons and hours of volunteer work. I mean, those guys working rodeos aren't getting rich by any stretch of the imagination, and the winner gets a very expensive, nice tractor to help out the rodeos moving forward. I mean, it's a great thing that they put in place about 5-6 years ago, and it's an award that, I mean, means a lot to the committees, and it means a lot to us to be able to be part of it.
Yeah, and we thank Heston for being a sponsor of that. As Tracy said, the winner gets a tractor, so a lot of cool things for people to come out here and experience for sure. We head into our short round awareness things, start things off, Tracy, with the back number reveal, and once again, your man leading the charge, number 1, Cole Patterson. He's got that back number, and he looks like he's going to be going for gold buckle number 2.
Yeah, Cole Patterson, he's got great horsepower. He's quick, he's athletic, and he took second last year to J. Tom Fisher. He won it the year before and won a record $85,000 at the NFSR, which is incredible based on just steer roping by itself. It never paid quite like that. He would have to be the favorite going in. I mean, it's a catchable situation because there's enough money there at the NFSR. Like I said, Patterson won $85,000 in 2021, but he'd be the favorite going in, and there's Scott Snedeker, Cody Lee, all the guys, Slade Wood, guys in the mix to see if they can knock him off. And
we know that you're obviously the steer roping aficionado here for the PRCA. You mentioned that a little bit. How much have you seen steer roping grow, in the PRCA since you started, first covering it? You mentioned the purse, up to what it is now. You've really seen a transformation in that event.
Right. Well, back in the day when I first got here, 2013, which was the first steer roping I covered in Guthrie, the winner, the top 15, a guy could get in with like $18,000, $20,000. I mean, because the purses weren't there.
Now it's up to the mid-40s.
Yeah, now to get in, you probably have to have right around $40,000 just to even think to have a chance to get in. And to win the average, you win $30,000 there at the NFSR. When I first started, I think it was paying $6,000 to win the average. I mean, the money's gone up. I know, obviously, the steer ropers would want more money, but the venue's better. This is since 2014, Mulvane, the Kansas Star, played host to it. It's a one-stop shop. There's everything there. The casino.
Stay out of the casino.
Yeah, it's a little tiny baby Vegas. The hotel's connected. I love the event, but I mean, it means a lot to the steer ropers to feel part of something and to have an event like that where the prestige is there. And I mean, I just enjoy it. I mean, it's grown, and the biggest thing is, you asked, Tanner, the biggest thing I've noticed in the years I've covered is the more guys that are younger, that are athletic, doing steer roping. Yeah. Back in the day, it was mainly guys probably in their late 20s, 30s, into their 40s. Now it's guys like Cole Patterson when he first got into it, early 20s, Tough Cooper when he was mid-20s. I mean, and you get these athletic guys that can jump off and run. I mean, it changes the dynamic of the sport a little bit, and it makes everybody else up their game.
That's going to be November 17th through the 18th. Tracy will have all the coverage there for you on ProRodeo.com. Also in our short round, the 2024 Playoff Series Rodeos presented by Pendleton Whisky have been announced. 62 rodeos, Tracy. That kind of gets us our feel for 2024 on what things are going to look like. And obviously it starts off with Odessa, and it goes all the way until September 30th again when we return to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's hard to believe we're already planning for that, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, and all those rodeos mean a lot. I mean, look at the guys like Mason Clemens, guys that win a ton of money, and you want to get to Puyallup to have the chance to get to Sioux Falls. And I mean, there's guys that probably won 45, 50,000 just in those two events.
True.
And that's a season changer. You add 50,000. I mean, it's like a Houston. It's like winning Houston. So it's great that these rodeos have stepped up. Their purses have gotten better, and it gives these guys a chance. Most of these rodeos they go to anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean,
definitely.
It's just part of the equation that made it better because they were going anyway, and now they have a chance to win big money towards the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think with having that big payday on the end, Tracy, we might see where more guys do take it a little bit serious because there is that opportunity to win $50,000 on the last day of the season. So you might see a little bit more increased attendance in some of those rodeos for sure.
And you'll get the thing that I like that it helps is, I mean, and not that we discourage it, but you get bigger name guys to go to these rodeos if it counts more because they have vested interest to want to get points to qualify in the top 24 to get to Puyallup and then obviously to move on to Sioux Falls. I mean, if you don't go to those, your chances of going, or you go to very few, are very limited. So they're going to want to go to more, and it makes every rodeo better if our superstars are there.
No doubt about it, and that should be an exciting purse, as we said, and Playoff Series gets underway in January. It's time for our 8-question segment. It's a man who just got a big honor, Tracy. We're sitting down with NFR selected pickup man Josh Edwards. He also does, some photography stuff for us here at the PRCA. He's on the board. Just an all-around good dude, Josh is, and we really appreciate him taking a little time to talk with us.
Yeah, I've known Josh for a long time since I've been here, and he's great at his job. And I mean, you could tell when we've spoken to him in the past what an honor like this means to him. I mean, it means a ton. I mean, that's what you work for, to get to go to the NFR, and he's going to get another chance.
Let's do it. Here's 8 questions with Josh Edwards.
Biggest win in rodeo?
Biggest win in rodeo? I'd say getting selected to work the National Finals Rodeo.
Okay. Favorite horse you've ridden?
Wiggles.
Your favorite rodeo to work?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I don't know. Fort Worth has a real special place in my heart. So I'd probably say Fort Worth.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie, man, that's a lot. Forrest Gump.
Favorite restaurant?
Well, it's closed now, but my favorite restaurant is Luby's.
First car?
1971 C10 3-on-the-tree Chevrolet truck.
Favorite sports team?
Dallas Cowboys.
Describe rodeo in one word.
Fulfilling.
And Tracy, it's hard to ask a pickup man what his favorite rodeo is because he's got so many. He's hired by the committee, so you got to be a little careful there. But really appreciate Josh and all he continues to do for the sport of rodeo.
Yeah, and you just got to be there for the pickup men. They're not lifesavers necessarily, but they need to be there for those guys. And they're definitely certainly an important cog to what our rodeos are.
And we really appreciate Josh sitting down with us. We're going to take a quick break here on the Chute Bosses. We mentioned at the back end of the show, we'll sit down and talk with Hall of Fame shortstop Ozzie Smith. Much more coming your way on the Chute Bosses.
Cowboying is in our blood. Cowboying is in our bruises. It's in our rain-soaked jackets. In our calloused hands, tested by barbed wire and rope. Our mud-stained boots to the crown of our resist-all hat. You live out west for even the shortest time, and there's one thing you learn. You can't pretend out here. Resist all. We live it every day.
We're back here on the Chute Bosses, Tanner and Tracy with you, and we mentioned that we have so many great things coming your way. Ozzie Smith, Pro Baseball Hall of Famer. We'll sit down and chat with him at the back end of the show. But before we get there, we got a little duties to get to first, and we started off with our Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame Spotlight. And Tracy, we've talked about cowboys, talked about committees, we've talked about stock. How about a horse going into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame? Today we are spotlighting Travis Tryon's precious spec known as Walt. And this was a horse that, really did a lot. It was before our time, I think just before you had gotten to the PRCA. But this was recognized as one of the best horses to ever carry a team roping header. Walt really did a lot. He was voted the Horse of the Year by the AQHA 4 different times in his career, first place winners. And also Tryon rode him 9 times at the NFR. The horse was inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame back in 2014. 2015. So, yeah, quite the horse.
Yeah, I mean, and it's all about horsepower. I mean, it's like finding a Ferrari, and then with the great engine, you don't want to give it up because it's like we always say, it's like an ATM machine.
Yeah.
You got a great horse, and this horse was one of the best ever. It's hard to win Horse of the Year once. One of those 4 times. So you can't say enough about it. I mean, it's one of our legendary horses, and we don't have a lot of horses in our Hall of Fame. So it speaks to the volumes of how good Walt was.
Yeah, Walt really, Travis Trine, I guess you could ask him, he'd probably say Walt made his career. You know,
Yeah.
you go to the NFR 9 times on the horse. I know a lot of other contestants rode that horse as well. So there's your Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame spotlight. It's time for our Did You Know segment here on the Chute Bosses podcast. And this one's going to go back to our judges, officials, whatever you want to call them, Tracy. But did you know there are at least 2 judges at every PRCA rodeo that are attended judging seminars and training to ensure that all the results of the competition and animal welfare are followed to a T, and there's 12 of those now full-time in the sport of pro rodeo.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all part of the machine that runs pro rodeo, but they got to know their job. It's similar like umpires in baseball. I mean, you have a crew of guys that are main guys, and that's what they do, and they're great at it, and that's what we have. We have a great crew of officials, and they have to implement the rules. Sometimes people don't like what they do,
Yeah.
but the rules are the rules, and
Sometimes.
they do their best.
Yeah, and we mentioned that I think it was just maybe last year, maybe 2022, Tracy, when they went from 8 full-time officials up to 12. And, you know, those 12 officials, obviously they're not at every rodeo across the country. We have to have some of the, you know, the other officials there, but the 12 full-time ones, they're the ones attending the big rodeos, you know, the Renos, the Fort Worths, Denvers, you know, those type of events are going to have those 12 full-time officials. And they got a lot of traveling to do. You know, we have a chance to chat with them. We see, you know, Rick Smith, supervisor of pro officials here in the office. They do a lot for the sport of rodeo that kind of goes unnoticed at times, even though, you know, it's one of those thankless jobs. We mentioned it in every sport.
And like you said, I mean, they're gone all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they sit in the office and go out. Like we don't usually see the
I don't think
judges.
I've ever seen
I mean,
one, yeah.
I think the only time we ever see them if they have some type of conference here at the headquarters in Colorado Springs. But yeah, I mean, but you got to have a passion for the sport to want to do it too. I mean, you're traveling all around the country, you get to see great places, but you still have to have a passion and be good at it, or you won't get to continue doing it.
Yeah, so we thank our pro officials there in our Did You Know segment. Time for our viewer question, and as I always mention here on the Chute Bosses, you can ask us a viewer question. You can go to our Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever you want to go to, TikTok. You just use the hashtag Chute Bosses, and we'll get your questions here and try and answer them for you on the Chute Bosses podcast. Our question today comes from Trevor on Facebook. Tracy, he wants to know what events go on before the NFR in Vegas. You know, obviously we're out in Vegas for a long time, you know, 15, 16 days in some cases. You know, what are some of those events that people can really look forward to?
Well, the first national event that takes place is the 5th and 6th, the National Finals Breakaway Roping, and that's there at the South Point. They moved it to the South Point a couple of years ago. Well, last year was the first year. It's a great event. I mean, the breakaway ropers can win a lot of money now. Martha Angeloni won, over $100,000 last year to be the breakaway world champion. They've had breakaway world champions for years, but we've been sanctioning it since 2020. There's other events as well, as you want to get into those.
Yeah, Tracy kind of mentioned it. Before you get to that breakaway roping, you have your Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame Gold Buckle Gala. That is going to be held December 4th. And then, the events that cowboys and fans really look forward to, whether it's watching or attending, starts with the back number ceremony on December 5th at the South Point. That is just an awesome event. We've always had fun. You know, this will be my third NFR coming up, but that's just one of those events that everyone loves to enjoy, you know, cowboys and fans alike.
Well, they kind of let their hair down, and you see a different personality of them, and it's kind of their time to shine, so to speak, and relax. Before it becomes a job. It's not like a football game, and that's what people. It's our Super Bowl, but it's like having the Super Bowl for 10 days.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's a marathon, so it's kind of their last chance, so to speak, to let their hair down before it gets serious, before game time in round one.
No doubt, and then we'll follow that up. PRCA Awards Banquet. You'll get all the committees, all the top 5 nominations that we released. Everyone will be in Las Vegas at the South Point there on December 6th. We'll crown our award winners, and that's a really special night as well. We mentioned the contestants have their night on the 5th, but the 6th is really about the committees, about the contract personnel, and, really getting honored for a year-long work and, much more of that in some cases.
Yeah, and you show up to Vegas, you get to be with all your peers.
You do.
It's a huge banquet. It's fits almost
Sells out, yeah.
1,000 people in that South Point ballroom. And I mean, once again, it's almost like a reunion / celebration. And if you can win, it's the cherry on top.
Yeah, so all those events will be coming up. We appreciate Trevor sending us that question. All those events before the NFR, and then obviously December 7th to the 16th, we kick things off at the Thomas and Mack. We'll have all of that coverage for you leading up to the 65th Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. Before we get there, Buck, he's chilling down in the Hall of Fame. And Tracy, he's got a good one today. What do you think Uncle Buck's going to be up to?
I don't know. I like Buck. There's something about Buck that I really like.
I don't know about that one, but we'll send it down. Here's Buck. He's got your Pro Rodeo Word of the Day.
I'm Buck, correspondent for the Chute Bosses. My word of the day is mark out. As in, rough stock riders need to make their mark out, especially at the NFR if they want to get a qualified ride. The funny thing is, when I was growing up, my nickname was Mark Out. That's like being Jimmy Empty Buckets. No one thought I had a chance. Now I don't have a chance to get out of these chutes. Somebody let me out.
Horses are one of nature's greatest gifts, which is why they deserve the very best that nature has to offer.
Since we've started using hemp flavoring, our horses are calmer, more willing, more athletic.
In the daily pellet, they eat it in their feed. My horses are picky. For them to eat it says something.
The stuff's really just been lightning in the bottle.
Equine Hemp Solutions. We support your horse so you can support your lifestyle. Proud supporter of your Western Sports Association. Go to the Equine Solutions website below and use Cowboy10 and receive 10% off your order.
Welcome back into the Chute Bosses podcast. Tracy, we teased it off the top. We're going to be joined by a man that's considered one of the best of all time, if not the best of all time, at his position, Ozzie Smith joining us. And Tracy, I can't wait for this interview. Such a legend in the sport of baseball.
Yeah, he's the wizard. He's argued 13 gold gloves. I mean, best shortstop ever, depending on who you ask. I mean, won World Series. He did so much for the game of baseball. I mean, I can't believe we have him as a guest, honestly. I mean, it's pretty hard to imagine. I grew up around the time when Ozzie was in his prime, so I'm well versed on what he did and who he was. And like I said, he's probably, if not the best, top 3 best shortstops in the game of baseball.
Ozzie, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's an honor for us here at the PRCA.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
For you, first of all, let's just kind of dive into your professional baseball career because, so many accolades, so many great things. You go into the Hall of Fame as well. What stood out to you during your baseball career as a moment that you'll never forget? I'm sure you've been asked that so many times.
Yeah. Well, when you play 19, 20 years, there are always, moments that stand out. But if I had to choose one, it would probably be the playoffs in 1985 against the Dodgers where being notably a defensive player, I hit a home run against the Dodgers in the playoffs, very unexpected, and it gave us an opportunity to go back out to Los Angeles, and my teammate Jack Clark hit a home run that propelled us into the World Series in 1985. So that was a moment that I remember, and what adds to that is the fact that Jack Buck was on the mic at the time, and I've heard it so many times now, I feel like I hit 500 home run. Jack Buck says, Smith corks one down the line. May go crazy, folks, go crazy. The Cardinals have won the game by the score 3-2 on a home run by the Wizard. Yes, so that is one of those moments that stand out. Unfortunately, we lost in 7 games to the Kansas City Royals in '85, but that certainly from my career was a highlight.
So when you got into the game of baseball, you went to Cal Poly and you weren't heavily recruited. Then you go and then you're out of college and like 2 years later, or 3 years later, 1980, you're making all-star appearances and stuff. How did you make that quick transition from a great college player to all of a sudden? I know initially you were with the Padres and then you became one of the best shortstops ever. Obviously, the best shortstop in your era. How did that happen so quickly for you?
Well, I think the fact that, I spent 4 years in school. A lot of the college programs now are much like minor league baseball, A-ball at least. So I was just kind of, I realized that, hey, this was my opportunity. And so give you a real quick story here about my business acumen. is in 1976, I get drafted by Detroit. The same year that they drafted Lou Whitaker and Alan Trammell, and I think the year before they had drafted Jack Morris. So they offered me $8,500. And I had finished 3 years of my schooling at that time, so I said to myself, if they don't give me 10 grand, they're not going to take a very good look at me. So in my infinite wisdom, I went back and said, hey, if you guys give me another $1,500, I'll sign and I'll head down to Lakeland, Florida, where they train. Well, they said they didn't have it in the budget. So I rolled the dice. I went back to school in hopes of getting drafted again my senior year, which not many seniors get drafted. I got drafted by the Padres in the fourth round, and being the good businessman that I am, I signed for $5,000 and a bus ticket to Walla Walla, Washington, where I started my professional career.
Well, if you don't know if you know, there's a lot of rodeo in Walla Walla, Washington as well, and that kind of brings us to our next talking point there for you, Ozzie. Do you have much? Have you been to a rodeo before? I know that you have a little history in Oakdale, California. Have you experienced the sport of rodeo any time?
No, I haven't, but my fiance is from Oakdale, California, and our friend Samson. And so there is the connection, the reason that I'm here sitting with you guys today, so everything about the sport of rodeo I've learned through her and Samson.
Sure, and I'd have to think, you're obviously one of the best ever, but like the hand-eye coordination, I'm assuming you appreciate athletes that excel at a high level, like rodeo, like bull riders and things like that. Obviously you were one of the best in Major League Baseball or the sport of baseball, but can you appreciate what rodeo athletes do?
I certainly can. Now that's a real contact sport, and a very dangerous sport, I might add as well. I think Samson has experienced that himself in the ring. So it's one of those things that it takes a lot to be a cowboy, and I don't know if I could be a cowboy.
I don't know. I can buy in that you can get it done. You got the fast hands. We got a little tie-down roping action. I could see it.
I don't know, but those bulls and horses are awful big.
What made, at shortstop, you were such a good fielder? Was it practice with the hand-eye coordination? You were so smooth and you bounced balls to first when no one was doing that, and you were doing things that no one was doing at the time. What made you so smooth and just fundamentally sound at, playing shortstop?
It's repetition over and over again, and for me it was work every day. I went to work every day knowing that if I was going to play for an extended period of time, I had to be good at what I did. Failure wasn't an option, so I worked extremely hard at being the very best that I could be day in and day out. And if you take that approach over a 19, 20-year career, at the end of it, hopefully you have something to show for it. And for me, and as it is for a lot of guys who approach it that way, you end up making the Hall of Fame, which was never the goal. The goal was to be as well-rounded a big league baseball player as I could be. And the way that you do that is through the consistency with which you do what you do.
Obviously your baseball career forever be remembered, but what are you up to nowadays, Ozzie? What's keeping you busy?
Well, I play a lot of golf. Okay. Of course, all of us that play baseball, we gravitate to golf because the competition, you're competing against yourself, you're competing against the course and the people that you're playing with, while at the same time understanding and knowing that, I will probably never reach the same plateau I did in my sport, but I wanted to be respectable enough that when I do play in tournaments, I don't embarrass myself, so I continue to work at that just as I did in my craft. And it's been a lot of fun getting to learn the game. And people would think that this ball sitting there not moving would be a lot easier to hit than a ball that's moving. And I think it's just the opposite, because you have to generate all of your timing and everything by yourself. A pitcher in baseball is what generate how you get your timing. In golf, you got to create all that yourself. And, as my career near the end, I always asked myself what it was that I wanted to do after I was done. And, about 5-6 years after I retired, I ran into some guys from Paducah, Kentucky. A friend introduced us, and they thought it would be a good match. And I'm involved in pain management clinics. It's called the Ozzie Smith Integrated IMAC Center, which is Integrated Medicine and Chiropractic. We do PRP, we do stem cell, we do rehab, all under one roof. And I have that here in Chesterfield, and it's the reason I look so good.
I'm sure that's a facility Cowboys could utilize with their bumps and bruises.
Yes, it's one of those things that for a lot of people who don't want to go under the knife, and it's an alternative for people who don't want to go under the knife with knee surgery, hip surgery, and all of those things. It's an alternative, and it's never 100%, but we've helped a lot of people. We have something in there we call the wall of canes, and if people come in with a cane, our long range goal is to get that cane so that they are able to get their lives back to where there's some normalcy to it and they don't have to depend on someone. So you can walk into to the office there and see that there are a lot of canes on the wall. So we've helped a lot of people.
Well, keep doing great things, Ozzie. We appreciate your time. We know you've got to run, so we just thank you for coming here on the Chute Bosses. It's kind of been a dream come true for us.
I was going to ask you one more thing, Ozzie, before I forgot. You always did the backflip. We have a bull rider named Ernie Corson who's famous for his backflips, but you were doing it way before people were doing backflips. You got any instruction for Ernie and how you do a great backflip?
Hey, Ernie, he better give me my cut. Trying to steal that backflip. You know what? I haven't done one of those since 2002, and the last time I did it wasn't pretty. So tell Ernie, be careful.
We will. Thanks, Ozzie, so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us.
Tracy, there it is, Ozzie Smith, one of the greatest of all time. And it's just cool to sit down and talk with somebody that is so good at their sport and, just a true professional inside, outside of the baseball stadiums. And he continues to do it in the work he's doing now with pain management.
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredible to be involved with someone like Ozzie Smith, who's, like I keep saying, he's one of the top 3 shortstops ever, and to go in the Baseball Hall of Fame and then do what he does now. And I mean, maybe that clinic he has can help some of our guys, get in pain management.
Help me and you, maybe.
Yeah, maybe get the crunks out of our backs and our knees. But yeah, just a fabulous guest, and can't thank Fernando Sampson enough for helping set this situation up for us and getting to talk to someone famous as Ozzie Smith.
No doubt about it. That's going to do it for another episode of the Chute Bosses. You can catch all the action, whether it's on our YouTube channel or anywhere you find your favorite podcast. That's going to do it for Tanner and Tracy. We'll catch you guys next time. Until then, keep on rodeoing.